everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and this is Darkest Night 2nd Edition by Jeremy Lennert. And we are going to continue our playthrough here. In the last episode, we had a ton of blight showing up in the Necromancer location right here in the swamp. You can see we're at our maximum blight at 4. If we were to have to add another blight, we would then be putting the blights over here in the monastery, which we want to try to avoid, because if the monastery becomes overrun, that is one of the ways we lose the game, and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to go through our turn here step by step. First off, we'll go ahead and reactivate all of our characters for the coming round, and let's start off with the Alchemist. Or maybe actually, you know what we'll do is maybe go ahead and have the Rogue go first, because here's what I'm thinking. We first of all don't want to be losing secrecy and end up in the same zone as the Necromancer. Mainly because if we're at a secrecy of 0 and we're in the same area as the Necromancer, then we're forced to fight it. And I don't think we're ready for that just yet. So I'm going to get the Rogue out of there. Plus, the Rogue has the worst secrecy across all of my characters. And that was noted by an individual. Mashing P actually mentioned this is a good strategy to get the Rogue out of there and potentially draw the Necromancer out of this swamp area so that we can try to get in there and knock off some blights. So we'll see how it works out. So I'm going to go ahead and activate the Rogue first. And the first thing we're going to do here is go to this action on this Smuggling Network card. It says action, exhaust to move to an adjacent location and gain 2 secrecy. Now that sounds really good, but I'm going to hold on to that till later. We're going to need it at some point. But, well, actually, this is the thing. If we don't take that and the Necromancer follows us into our village location, let's say that's where we move, the problem I'm going to be running into is that I may end up getting trapped there if I don't have the secrecy, enough secrecy to take the hits that the Necromancer presents when I start my turn. So I guess we should go through this as we normally would with a regular turn. So we're going to start off, and because the hero and Necromancer are in the same location, we're going to right off the bat lose the secrecy. So that's going to knock us down to 1. So that's what I mean by it being a bad thing, because the Necromancer's in there messing with us. On top of that, if we have a Holy Relic, we lose a secrecy. That won't happen. We're going to go ahead and resolve start of turn power cards. We don't have any here, so we're going to skip that area right now. Moving on to the event phase, we're going to draw an event card. The only reason we wouldn't is if the hero's in the monastery, or if the hero's secrecy is 0, like as I mentioned, and in the same spot as a Necromancer, then we would fight them. That's what I just mentioned there. We're going to resolve the card and the effect and discard it going from there. So let's go ahead and pull an event card and see what happens to the Rogue. I'm kind of worried, to be honest, based on how things are going. We found Grim Tidings. Okay, so that sounds fantastic. It even shows Beware on the card. Draw a quest and roll 1 die to determine its location. She delivers the news with a somber face. Okay, so let's go ahead and do just that. Let's find out exactly what's going to happen. So first we'll go ahead and we're going to grab a quest card. So it's going to be this one right here. And the quest that we're going to be dealing with, which is going to stick around for 6 rounds, is called the Dark Orb. As an action, we can try to elude versus 5. And each success gives us 1 of the progress we need in order to complete the quest. If we complete it, we actually reduce the darkness by 2. That's not bad. And if it expires, then a void blight shows up. It says, rumors tell of a powerful object of dark magic the Necromancer is using to channel his powers in this area. Steal it to diminish his influence. Okay, so we have to roll a die in order to determine where this is going to go, as it said on the event card. So let's go ahead and grab one of the custom dies, roll it. And this is going to be based off of the village location. So village is a 6, so it's not going to be here in the village. Where does a 5 take us? Looks like it's going to take us, oh dear, into the swamp. So the Dark Orb is actually in the swamp area where everything else is. Well, at least it's in an area where we are basically going to be dealing with a lot of stuff anyway. So I guess that's good in a way. We can potentially make progress towards it and maybe reduce the darkness down if that's going to be a positive for us. What I think makes the most sense here for our Rogue is to actually move into the village and draw the Necromancer away. So we're going to move out into the village, and with that we're going to gain ourselves a secrecy, because when you travel as an action, you do gain a secrecy back up to a max of 5. So that's good, because if the Necromancer does start to follow the Rogue, then at least the Rogue can handle it. The good news is later on, if our secrecy gets really nasty or very low, we can use this action card, the Smuggling Network, to help us out. We also have this right here if we decide to search later on, when we can get some extra dice when we're doing that action. So that's going to basically conclude the Rogue. So we're going to flip that over and deactivate the Rogue. Next up, we're going to move to... Now this is where things get interesting. We have to figure out what the best combination is going to be. If we leave the nymph in this particular location, the downside is that the nymph is going to, well, actually, you know, it might not be a bad idea to try this. So what I'm going to probably try to do is, well, first off, if we go ahead, we might as well start off with the nymph here. The nymph is here. The nymph is the most powerful, or most capable, I should say, potentially, of actually taking out some blights. I think, being that I gain a spark every single time I try to attack, so that's really going to help us, because I've got myself my Gust action card here set to, I'm going to remember this actually because it's been a bit. It is attack twice. Oh, that was one, sorry, that was a one-time use. It was down here on the Overgrowth card down in the Autumn section. It says gain a spark before you attack. So that's a really good advantage for me. But still, we are currently inside the Necromancer's area, so we'll go ahead and we'll activate the Nymph first. We're going to lose a secrecy because we are sitting inside the Necromancer's area, which I'm sure is making him easier to spot us. Now we're going to go ahead and we've got to figure out what we are going to do in terms of an event card. We have no idea how this is going to turn out, so let's find out what happens. Yikes. Forbidden Treasure. Okay, well, it's a difficulty 1, so maybe it's good. Oh, that's not good. Lose a grace. Okay, so right off the bat, we lose a grace. Now, this is really bad because my grace now for my character is 1. I only have 1 left. So that was almost like dying, essentially. Well, that was not good. But there's a treasure on the other end of it, and it says we can get a bunch of really cool things, potentially, if we roll correctly. So let's go ahead and roll and see what happens. Roll a die and pick one. So here we go. I don't actually know, and I can tell you guys this right now. The wording on that's really bad, unless I'm mistaken. Oh, that's right. Because I'm rolling 1 die, as it mentions here, if you happen to have additional sparks or something to increase the amount of dice you're actually rolling, that's where the pick one would come into play. And sometimes that throws me because I'm rolling 1 die in some cases, and I go, well, why would I pick one if I roll for it? But that makes more sense. So we got a 5. What is a 5? The 5 is the Bottled Magic. Okay, so we're going to have to go find the Bottled Magic because that's what we just gained. So let's go over here to our reference sheet and pull the Bottled Magic and find. I think we actually had this before. This is a really good one. It's discard after a fight to roll, or sorry, after a fight roll to add 3 dice to that roll. That's perfect timing for that one. So let's go ahead and grab that bottle, which will be over here in this area. I think it's blue if I'm not mistaken, but it could also be green. Oh, no, it is green. My mistake. So let's go ahead and find Bottled Magic. All right, I got it. There it is right there. So our nymph successfully found some Bottled Magic. That's fantastic. Now it is the nymph's turn, and what I really wanted to do was try to eliminate some of the blights there. So if I can get rid of this skeleton, the cool thing is the skeleton won't attack me for me staying in this particular area, and I think that's what I want to do is go after the skeleton. This Nexus, just so you guys are aware, this Nexus, all it will do is it's going to protect blights from a far distance. So it's not going to protect blights that are in the same area, so I don't have to get rid of the Nexus first before I go for the skeleton. But if one of my other heroes, say the Rogue, wanted to go for the Omen, this Nexus has to be out of the game first for me to be able to do that, because it protects far blights, the Nexus does. The Taint here actually, what does this one do again? I kind of forget. This one has, cannot gain Grace. So where we currently are, we can't gain Grace, and we haven't. We've actually been losing it. The Webs, just as a reminder, says lose a turn leaving. So you know what? What we're going to do is flip these face up so that we can remember exactly what these things do, because that'll just make life easy later on when we're referencing things. The skeleton's pretty nasty, and here's where things get really scary, is if I happen to fail this. Now, we got really lucky by getting the Bottled Magic because it's going to allow me to roll a lot of dice. And I should be able to get a 5 or higher on this check and be able to kill it. If I did die, my nymph would be in risk of potentially going down the tubes because I would lose all my grace. So this is a very dangerous roll regardless, but I'm going for it because we really want to get rid of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to be rolling for it, and as I already mentioned, I technically gain a spark when I attack with my nymph. I'm going to use it right away so that I can add an additional die to this roll. So I'm rolling 2 dice, and if I'm really lucky, I won't have to use my Bottled Magic to add 3 after the fight dice are rolled if we don't happen to land a 5 or 6. So here's hoping. We got a 5, so we don't have to use the Bottled Magic, and we successfully took out the skeletons. That's awesome. So now we don't have to deal with that. Things are turning around a little bit for us. That's not bad at all. So we went ahead with a fight action. If you guys weren't wondering, that's what I chose to do there, an attack action. And we do lose a secrecy when we attack something as well. So our secrecy is going to drop down to 2. So that's not good, but hey, it helped us resolve that particular situation. And now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to flip this over to deactivate my character. We have no yellow blights in this area, so we don't have to worry about anything in the end phase for my turn with the Nymph. All right, so I've got a plan of attack here that I'm thinking might work, and I need to make sure that whatever the Necromancer does on its roll, it gets out of this swamp location. I don't want to have it overthrown with more blights when I currently have taken out of one of the blights. So what I want to do is I want to get this Necromancer in his turn to move out. That's what I'm hoping. So in order to do that, right now I've got essentially three individuals or three heroes within the Necromancer's reach. So when I roll on his turn, what I'm worried about is that he's going to potentially detect all of these heroes at once, and I only really want him to detect the Rogue. So I need to get the Nymph and the Conjurer out of there, even though I'd love to keep the Nymph in here for fighting the Blights and whatnot. The Nymph's actually getting very low on Grace as well as Secrecy, and I don't think her worth is worth keeping there any longer until she gets back and maybe does something in terms of increasing her secrecy and her grace mainly, because if her grace goes down to 0, the character then is going to be removed, and then we're going to have to go through the idea of setting up a new character, which would come in and only have 2 power cards, and things get a little bit more limited. We also don't have access to them for a particular round, so that's bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the Conjurer, and what I'm going to do with the Conjurer is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to have the Conjurer in a safe location. There is no Necromancer here, so that's good news from that standpoint. So we're going to go ahead and say that there's no loss of secrecy for any reason. We would go ahead now and we're going to resolve an event card. So this is where things get a little fun. So we got to pull our event card and see if something happens with the Conjurer. So here's hoping it's not too bad. We got Electrical Storm. This sounds bad. Roll 3 dice, then pick and resolve 2. Okay, so here's hoping I get something good. I can gain sparks, I can exhaust a power, I can lose secrecy and lose grace. All of that sounds terrible. So I need to roll lots of 6s on this one. So we've got 3 dice to roll, and we're going to pick 2 of them. Okay, that was not good. So essentially what do we have here for choices? We could either lose a grace, not good. We could either lose a secrecy, not good. Or we could exhaust a power. So I have a lot of powers to exhaust, but some of them are really useful. Like Summon is something I want to use right now, or very soon this turn. Duplicate's really good because we get double. Invisible Barrier. I'm going to exhaust Invisible Barrier because I don't think right now I want to stop the Necromancer from getting close to me anywhere. So that's what I'm going to choose. So that one is the Exhaust a Power. So we chose 5, and then we need to choose one more. I'm either losing a Secrecy or I'm losing a Grace. Well, I have to lose a Secrecy in that case because I don't want to drop my Grace any further. And we've resolved the card. So the event has now been resolved. We can toss this aside. And we're going to go ahead with the actual action for the Conjurer. And I'm going to choose to move. We're going to move the Conjurer from the ruins over to the forest location, just like this. The cool thing is, because I chose to lose secrecy, when you do a move action or a travel action, you gain a secrecy back up to 5. So I essentially just, boop, I didn't even lose that secrecy in the end anyway. That's fantastic. Now I'm here, and I have this bonus card that I can activate because it's a bonus, it's not an action. It says exhaust during your turn to move any hero to your location. That hero gains 1 secrecy up to 7. I'm going to summon the Nymph out of that location to here so that she is no longer going to be a target. I'm going to bump her secrecy up to 3, and now the only target the Necromancer can see within moving distance is going to be the Rogue, and that's exactly where I want the Necromancer to move to. So we can kind of go in around behind him and get to the swamp when we need to, as well as try to recharge this group. We also know we're going to have to resolve this quest because the darkness is going to go up. So now we've gone ahead and we finished the Conjurer's turn, so we're going to go ahead and do this. We use this as a bonus. And it says exhaust, so we do have to turn this thing sideways. I'll turn them all the same way. We still have the duplicate, so it says, when a search, event, quest, or mystery causes you to gain an item or other than a key, exhaust it to gain another one of those things. Now on that last event card that we got, we didn't get anything good. So if I had have happened to get, say, gain a spark, I could have exhausted, or I could have used this and exhausted it to gain another spark, which wouldn't have been bad, but it didn't happen. So now we've deactivated all 3 of the currently used heroes. So the Nymph is done, the Conjurer is done, and the Rogue is done, but the Alchemist is not done yet. And so the Alchemist is in the monastery, so nothing bad is going to happen to the Alchemist, and of course no event is going to happen because he's in a safe space. So with that, I can go ahead and start my turn. Now I have a bunch of pretty decent cards to use. This is more so for eluding things. This one I can actually activate on here in my location to gain them a spark. And this one is a bonus when I'm actually doing something most of which I can't do at the monastery. So what I really want to do is I want to get the Alchemist Grace back up. The Secrecy is fantastic, but I'd like to get more Grace so I can put the Alchemist back out into the field. So I'm probably going to have the Alchemist pray here once, and a pray we've never done before, but you essentially roll 2 dice, and for each 3+, you gain a Grace up to your default. So the thing is, my default can only be 3, so I only had the potential to get 1 Grace here, but in my opinion, it's worth it, because if I bring the Alchemist back out into the action, to maybe even to go up into the castle and start dealing with some of those, I don't want to have to be taking too much of a hit, and I want to be able to survive most of those hits. So here we go. We're hoping for a 3+. And we got it. We got a 6. So we got the one we needed. Awesome. So we prayed. We brought our Grace back up. And that is going to be the end of the Alchemist turn. So the Alchemist now, there's nothing else I can do here. Let's see. Nope, can't use that. Can't use that. So we are now going to deactivate the Alchemist, and that's going to finish up the hero's turn. Guess whose turn it is? Yep, it's the Necromancer's turn. So we're going to start off doing what we always do, and that's going to be increasing the darkness track by 1. And sadly, that's going to push us into this second area called the drawing of the darkness card for hitting 10, which is terrible. We're going to come over here, and for the first time, we're going to grab it from this deck, which has a wonderfully shiny and very happy looking back to it. We're going to flip this over and find out what kind of nasty thing the Necromancer is unleashing into the world. It's called Will of Pestilence. Immediately activate in the Necromancer's location. That's not good. Active. At the end of the Necromancer's turn, create a blight in this location unless a hero is present. That is quite possibly one of the worst cards I could have gotten based on how I played the last turn. So let me just read this again so I make sense of this whole situation. So this particular card is going to stay in play forever. So immediately we activate in the Necromancer's location. So that means we immediately move to the active area. Then this card is going to stay in play forever until we decide to get rid of it, hopefully by using this quest right here, which allows us to get rid of a darkness card. It says, while it's active, at the end of the Necromancer's turn, create a blight in this location unless the hero is present. So a 4th blight is going to show up in this Necromancer's area, even though we tried our best to avoid it. Let's see. Yes, because this is going to activate in the Necromancer's location. So this is going to sit essentially in here. So the Will of Pestilence is now in this area, and it's going to just constantly be hammering this area, which is really bad. It's bad it's in this area because it could have been anywhere else, and it wouldn't have been as nasty. I'm just going to move this so the shadow doesn't hit as bad. So there we go. We've now got that card into play. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a timer for the quests that are currently in the game, and we're going to go ahead and put a timer token on here. So we've got 5 more rounds to complete the Dark Orb quest. And we're going to go ahead and move the Necromancer. So first we're going to find out who the Necromancer can see. So we're rolling, and at this particular point, really at the end of the day, the Necromancer is probably only going to be able to see the Rogue. So in this case, we're going to go ahead right now and roll the die. A 5. So the Necromancer can see pretty much almost everybody, but in terms of who he can actually go after, the Rogue is the only one within moving distance. So he's definitely going to move from his current location into the village location, which is quite nasty for our hero, the Rogue. However, as nasty as it is, it's still exactly what we wanted. This is how we planned it. We wanted to get the Necromancer out of this location so we can get our heroes in there to deal with all of the nastiness that's currently in the swamp. So we are going to have to pull a map card in order to figure out what blight the Necromancer is going to leave on this particular location. And we are now currently in the village, so it looks like it's going to be crows. And we are familiar with the crows because we have some up here in the castle, but more of them are going to be coming out near the village. And so this is another nasty one that essentially, if we fail, can really hurt us. But we've got some crows now here in the village area, which is not good. And there we go. That is going to conclude the Necromancer's turn. And that's going to conclude that particular round. So we're moving into the second round of this video. So first off, I want to mention the fact that we've got to remember we do have this Nexus in play, which is going to protect all of our blights. So we cannot go after any blights outside of the swamp area currently until this is removed. We also have to remember that this Will of Pestilence, which is a darkness card, is going to basically stay in the game until we get rid of it. And every single time the Necromancer's turn fully resolves at the very end of it, it's going to add a blight into the location unless a hero is present. So as long as we keep a hero in there, it's okay. But we also have this Starlight one, which would allow us, if we complete it, to remove that darkness card, plus get 2 clues, which would actually bump us up on the track a decent amount, and hopefully enough to actually make a difference going forward. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do in this coming round. What I've really been eyeing is trying to get this clue marker to the 10 spot, because once we do, then we can go after a holy relic, which is going to help us later on. But unfortunately, we still need 3 clues, so we're going to have to work a little harder on trying to get to that. So first off, let's go ahead and think about what we're going to do. And I've kind of thought of a little bit of a strategy that I think might work. We do need to get our characters to this swamp area regardless. There's no way to really get them there super fast. We don't want to be in the same spot as a Necromancer, that's for sure. And we also need to get rid of this Nexus in order to be anywhere near productive. So what we're probably going to do is use this time frame to get us moving around in a way that's going to keep us safe. So first off, the Alchemist here could really go in one of 2 directions. I could go up here, or I could go down here. Now my plan with the Nymph and the Conjurer is to get them going over here to the ruins next, and then potentially into the swamp for the next turn. So that's quite a ways away. That's kind of my debate right now. Let me see here. Well, you know what? By Starlight's still useful. Maybe what I could do is actually have my Nymph take care of the By Starlight, have my Conjurer move over here, and then later on maybe I can do one of those rests to actually bring back this particular card so that I can get into the swamps and summon the Nymph back over here. So we're kind of doing 2 things within a couple rounds. In terms of the Alchemist, I can just move the Alchemist over to this location, maybe do a search and try and see if we can get something good because it's not an area that's affected real nasty. And then we can take the Rogue, whose secrecy is not the best, and maybe use a move action to gain some secrecy and get moving somewhere else. I don't know. Or maybe just have the Rogue be the guinea pig to have the Necromancer chase around kind of in a circle. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to move the Rogue last so we can find out how this whole thing turns out. But first we're going to start with the Nymph, because the Nymph is right here. The Nymph is in a forest location, so with the forest location activating right away, or not the forest location activating, but our hero activating, we are not in the same location, so no secrecy is lost, and we don't have any holy relics. We're going to go ahead and draw an event, because we are currently in the forest location, so hopefully this doesn't turn out to be nasty for us. We got the Dust Storm. So this is a gain 2 secrecy. Then, oh geez, that's really good and really bad. So this Dust Storm is going to help us a little bit. It says the wind howls in your ears and dirt scratches your eyes. You circle last in the halfling, or half-light. Or sorry, you circle lost in the half-light. My goodness, I can barely read. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to gain 2 secrecy right away. So it's going to bump us all the way up to 5. That was a really nice bump. Next up, we have to spend a grace to get this or lose a turn. And I don't want to spend a grace because the Nymph is not doing so hot on the grace side of things. And actually, I'll probably bring the Nymph after she resolves this quest to the monastery next to potentially try to get some grace back. So we're going to have to go ahead and lose a turn, which is really bad. So this is going to have to sit on top of her card because we're continuing her turn right now, but the next time she activates, she's going to lose a turn. So now we've lost the Nymph, so that was kind of bad timing. But we're going to go ahead here and continue the current turn we're on, because if I understand correctly, the hero turn consists of start, event, action, and end. So you can't just lose a turn in the middle of it. We have to wait till the next turn starts before that lose a turn kicks in. So we're going to go ahead now with the Nymph, and the Nymph is going to go ahead with this quest and try. And it says every hero places one of their power cards on the bottom of its deck. Then we remove a darkness card from play and plus 2 clues. So we have to go through all of our cards here and remove 1 power card. That's a real big pain for us. Which one is the easiest one to get rid of for the Alchemist? I like Distill. It's a bonus I can use all the time. This one's cool, but it only if there's other heroes in my area. And it says gain a spark at the start of your turn. Activate on a hero in your location. I think the spark is nice. I think the elude's better. So I'm going to get rid of the spark one. We're going to be putting this one on the back of the deck. We're going to take this, or the bottom of the deck, I should say, not the back, like so. Okay, then we're going to move over here to the Rogue. Now the Rogue currently has what in play? I have contracts, exhaust any time to gain a secrecy. That one seems like the one I could lose because this one gives me 2 when I use it. This is a bonus that happens anytime. Oh no, I still have to exhaust it to use it. So in that case, spend 1 secrecy to search with 2 dice. You know what? This one's the one I don't really care for that much. I don't think. It's kind of tough. They're all good, so there's no real bad choice here, I don't think. So I'm trying my best to... Well, you know what, though, is that I haven't used that one yet. So that's the trouble I'm having. I haven't actually used this action yet. Although it doesn't say that I have to exhaust it to lose it anyway. It's tough. This one is exhaust anytime you can use it. You know what? This one's not that great. Because you got to keep unexhausting it to actually use it. So because it's already been used, I'm just going to toss that one. I think that makes the most sense. So there we go. Smuggling Network and Eavesdrop. Moving over to the Conjurer, we have Invisible Barrier, which is really helpful depending on how we want to move the Necromancer around the board. Duplicate is really cool. Summon's really good. So I have a real problem with the Conjurer because Conjurer has great cards. This is brutal. I really don't want to get rid of the duplicate because that's going to be really handy when I'm searching and things like that. But let's see. This one is activate in your location, then hide. If Necromancer would enter that location, cancel movement. Oh, this is tough. No, I gotta keep that. I gotta keep that. And I don't think I used this card. Oh, no, that's right. I exhausted this card because of an event card. But I want to keep this. I'm going to have to let go of the duplicate one, I think. Because I'm not planning on doing any searching anyway. I'm planning on getting the Conjurer all the way over to this Blight area as fast as possible. So the duplicate one is going to have to go. It's kind of sad because it's actually a really cool bonus or ability. So that's gone. And then all the way over here to the Nymph. So the Nymph has a Tactics Exhaust to elude successfully without rolling. I'll get rid of that one because the other combination of getting a Spark all the time is way too powerful to get rid of. It'll break up. So I'm going to lose the Spark, or sorry, the eluding card here. So we'll put that on the bottom of the deck. And we've resolved all of that. And now with that being said, we can go ahead and remove a Darkness Play from card. So that's going to be the Will of Pestilence. This has been removed. Awesome. And we're also going to gain 2 clues. So we're up to a total of 9. So that's very good. And this has now been resolved as well. That's out of the game. Okay, not a bad turn for the Nymph, except the Nymph won't be getting a turn next turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the Nymph over so that we remember that the Nymph isn't going to get to go next time. And we've now gone ahead and resolved the Nymph's quest. So because of that, we're going to go ahead and deactivate the Nymph. So we are now done. We'll just double check here to make sure there's nothing else we gain by going ahead with a quest. No, we're perfect. We're all good there. All right, so let's move on to the next one. That would probably be the Conjurer, I think. So I'm going to probably have the Conjurer move to the Ruins because regardless of where he stands currently, the Necromancer is going to see him. But my Secrecy can't go any higher than 5, so I'm not going to gain any advantage by moving. That's the only downside. I could stay where I'm at, but I really want to get there. I don't want to waste time, so I'm going to bring the Conjurer here. And the reason I want to do that is because later on I'm going to try to rest, or not rest, what is it called again? It is hide. To refresh powers, gain a secrecy, and get all these things back. And then I'm going to summon someone from this side of the board into the swamp once I get there. That's my plan. So I've moved there. I can't gain a secrecy past 5, so that's the end of my turn. Pretty straightforward. However, I just kind of skipped past the event phase. We still have to deal with an event, so I'm doing this a little out of turn. Twilight. Compared to Darkness, if it's in the 0 to 14, exhaust a power or lose 1 secrecy. Shoot, well, technically this would have happened before I moved, so here's how this is going to pan out. Basically, I lose a secrecy. I would have been here when I got this event, and then I move by traveling, and I gain a secrecy to go back to 5. So, in essence, Twilight was no problem for us. So that's disregarded and gone. Conjurer's turn is done. Okay, moving over to the Rogue and the Alchemist next. The Alchemist is in the monastery and needs to start moving, and I need to start moving in a productive way, so I'm going to probably have the Alchemist move to the mountain area, and when it does, the really cool thing is I can move my secrecy up to, it's up to 5 at max, so I can't go any higher even though his max is 6, or his default starting is 6. These cards are going to help me because I can't use them right now. I'm hoping to maybe search or do something later, or just have the Alchemist head to the castle. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of a football maneuver going around the sides of the Necromancer as he sits in the center. We'll see how this pans out. But again, I got a little hyper excited. Oh no, that's right. We started in the monastery, so no event. I played that correctly. Perfect. And we'll go ahead and we'll deactivate the Alchemist. Moving over to our last character. This is where things get interesting. So we have to think about this strategically. We started in a space with the Necromancer, so the worst part about that is my secrecy is going to go down. We've been playing kind of cat and mouse with it anyway, so we have to determine where we want the Necromancer to go next. Now, if I was to move the Rogue into the monastery, for instance, then the Necromancer is going to target somebody else. And the one is going to target, most likely, the Nymph is at 5 secrecy, Conjurer's at 5, and the Alchemist is at 5. Those are really high. So the chances are that the Alchemist may not find anybody and then may wander randomly, and that's bad. Because if it wanders randomly, it could go back into the swamp or it could go back into the castle and start putting blights back in those areas, which I do not want. I want to keep it away from that side of the board. But technically, now we don't really have any safe haven because we put characters in all spots. So maybe that was a poor decision on our part. But, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think there's anything we can really do about that. I kind of want to progress regardless, and we have tons of secrecy, so I think I'm going to leave things where they are that way. But in terms of the Rogue, if the Rogue does not want to be here at the end of the turn, plus if I am, I would have to deal with crows, and I don't want that. So we are going to have to pull, I've already lost the secrecy, but we are going to have to pull an event here. So let's see what the event does to us first, because this is always usually nasty. Cultist, it's a 1, so it shouldn't be too bad. Oh, we gotta fight it. No. So if we win the fight, we win the elude, no effect. Failure. The weaker things shy away from him. This one's important. Okay, so what are we gonna do here? If we go ahead and try to fight this thing, we're only rolling 1 die because I have no sparks to gain from this. Shoot, that is tough. If I go to try to win the fight, I can reduce the darkness. That's only by 1. I don't see how that's really useful. If I fail, I die, so I lose a grace. So let's just try to go ahead and do the awareness, or to try to do the elude. I think that's what we're going to go with. So 1 die, we just need to get a 3, and hopefully this ends up being good, I hope. 3, perfect. We succeeded. Awesome. So again, when we choose to elude, no effect. I'm glad we didn't try to fight because we would have died, and then we would have had to spend a grace. So that's great. We dealt with the cultist. I think that's why this is a difficulty 1, because it wasn't actually as bad as it looks. Now, with that being said, what are we going to do with this Rogue? So I have this one here still called the Smuggling Network. Spend 1 secrecy to move to an adjacent location, then take a different action, or exhaust to move to an adjacent location and gain secrecy. Interesting. So really, wherever I put the Rogue right now is where this Necromancer is going to go. So who do I want him to mess with the most? Who can handle him being messed with? Not the Nymph, because the Nymph's going to be sitting out of play for another turn, so I don't want the Necromancer to be here. So it's either going to be going to the Conjurer or to the Alchemist up top. Now, the Conjurer's got 5 secrecy. It does have the ability to get out of there. And is likely going to want to get out of here anyway, to head here. If I move the Necromancer here, it's still within 1 of getting back to the castle. If I move it here, it's still within 1 of getting to the swamp. Technically, I think the most difficult blights are in the castle area, 6, 5, and 5. These are 3, 5, and 5. So overall, it should be easier to clear this area. So let's have the Necromancer move up to the mountain area. So, not that I'm moving the Necromancer, but I'm going to have the Rogue essentially move to this location. I'm going to gain a secrecy because I moved up there. Now, what I'm also deciding and trying to determine what I do here is, do I spend a secrecy to move to an adjacent location, take a different action? No, because I don't have... if I spent a secrecy, I'd be in serious trouble if the Necromancer came into my spot. This one says exhaust to move to an adjacent location, gain 2 secrecy. I could do that, but at the end of the day, I want to force the Necromancer to get in there, so I'm not going to. So I'm going to go with my original plan, just a regular travel action, an increase in secrecy, and that is going to be it. So, with that being said, we now can go ahead and deactivate the Rogue, and we're going to go ahead and find out how the Necromancer is going to move. So first up, Darkness Track is going to tick up by 1, which is nasty. The quest timer is going to increase on our quest. The Dark Orb way over here, so we got 4 more rounds on that to go. We got rid of the Darkness card that was here, so that's a good thing. We now have to determine where the Necromancer is going to go. So we're going to go ahead and be rolling for the Necromancer to see whether it can spot anybody. So we got a 3, okay, so with a 3 on the board, that is going to be, let's see here, that is going to be the Rogue that he spots. He doesn't spot anybody else, so it's pretty simple. He's just going to simply move 1 into the Rogue's area, and he's going to create a blight in this area, which is nasty. So that blight in the mountain area is going to be the Unholy Aura. Not good. I don't know if I've seen that yet before. Do I even have that one? Oh, I do. It's right here. This does not look good at all. It's a 4. What does it do? -1 die when fighting. Okay, that's tough. So that's what? Well, I guess you can never roll less than 1. So in most of my cases, that's actually not all that bad for me. Okay, so we have a new blight in that location, and that is going to end the Necromancer's turn and the end of this particular video. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this so far. We definitely have changed the layout of the board. We have people in different corners. We're trying to play cat and mouse with the Necromancer right now. My goal is to eventually get these heroes. I'll have the Conjurer head into the swamp in the next round is my hope, to start dealing with some blights in there. We're going to have to get these guys over there. The Conjurer has the ability at some point to summon someone, so whoever is my best case scenario to actually go ahead and win, that is going to be the individual that I'm going to want to pull into that location to help me fight the blights. We also have the castle up here we have to deal with, and there's just so much going on. So anyway, I hope you guys are really enjoying it. If you see any strategies that I should use going into the next one, let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.